Hey everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Today we've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. Ethan Hayes stood in his kitchen, watching the morning sun filter through expensive Italian blinds. With military precision, he prepared coffee. Everything in his life seemed perfect. The sprawling mansion in Connecticut, a successful security consulting business, and his family. His wife, Sarah, moved through their home like a queen. Their 16-year-old daughter, Lily, had inherited her mother's striking features and her father's sharp intelligence. What Sarah didn't know was that Ethan's security consulting was a carefully constructed cover. For 15 years, Ethan Hayes had been a ghost, working in black operations for agencies that didn't officially exist. He'd orchestrated regime changes, eliminated high-value targets, and mastered the art of making problems disappear permanently. 3 years ago, he'd retired from the shadows, hoping to build a normal life. "Daddy, can you drive me to school today?" Lily asked, bouncing into the kitchen with her backpack. She was the one pure thing in Ethan's world, the reason he'd walked away from his previous life. "Of course, sweetheart," Ethan replied, noting how Sarah barely acknowledged their daughter. Lately, his wife seemed distracted, constantly checking her phone and making excuses to leave the house. As they drove to Lily's private school, she chatted about her upcoming debate tournament. Ethan listened intently, filing away every detail. In his world, information was survival, and protecting Lily meant knowing everything about her life. "Mom's been acting weird lately," Lily mentioned casually as they pulled into the school's circular drive. "She's always texting someone and smiling in this strange way." A cold recognition settled in Ethan's chest. He'd seen the same behavioral changes in targets who were living double lives. "Has she mentioned any new friends?" he asked carefully. "She talks about her yoga instructor a lot." "Some guy named Marcus," Lily shrugged, grabbing her bag. "Love you, Dad." After dropping Lily off, Ethan sat in his car for several minutes. Marcus. He'd heard Sarah mention that name frequently over the past few months. Always in passing, always casual. Too casual. That evening, while Sarah claimed to be at another yoga session, Ethan activated skills he'd hoped never to use again. Her phone records revealed a pattern of calls and texts to Marcus Thorne. Not a yoga instructor, but a high-profile divorce attorney with a reputation for ruthless tactics. The surveillance footage Ethan obtained showed Sarah entering the Marriott downtown every Tuesday and Thursday, the same hotel where Marcus Thorne kept a permanent suite. Ethan watched the security feed on his laptop, seeing his wife of 18 years laugh as she kissed another man in the hotel elevator. The betrayal cut deep, but what triggered his transformation from loving husband to predator was the conversation he captured through his audio surveillance. "When are you going to leave him?" Marcus's voice was clear through the listening device Ethan had planted in Sarah's purse. "Soon," Sarah replied. "I've been documenting everything, his work trips, his bank accounts, even his relationship with Lily. My lawyer says I can get everything in the divorce, including full custody." "Your lawyer?" Marcus laughed. "Baby, I am your lawyer. When this is over, you'll be a very wealthy single woman, and that little girl will finally have a real father figure." The rage that filled Ethan wasn't the hot anger of a betrayed husband. It was the cold, calculating fury of a professional killer whose family had been threatened. They weren't just destroying his marriage. They were planning to steal his daughter. For 3 weeks, Ethan Hayes became a ghost in his own life. To Sarah and the outside world, he remained the devoted husband and father. But beneath the surface, he was conducting the most important operation of his career. He discovered that Marcus Thorne had built his reputation on destroying families. He specialized in high-net-worth divorces, using private investigators to dig up dirt on husbands while positioning himself as the sympathetic shoulder for wealthy wives. 3 of his previous clients had become his mistresses, and 2 had married him, only to be discarded for younger, wealthier targets. Sarah had no idea she was just another mark in Marcus's predatory pattern. Ethan's investigation revealed more disturbing details. Marcus had convinced Sarah to start documenting concerning behavior from Ethan, creating a false narrative of emotional abuse. Phone recordings showed Sarah practicing lies about Ethan's temper, his work absences, and even fabricating incidents where he'd allegedly frightened Lily. The most damning discovery came when Ethan hacked Marcus's personal computer. Email chains revealed the lawyer's strategy. Paint Ethan as an unstable veteran suffering from PTSD, use Sarah's testimony about his mysterious business trips to suggest dangerous criminal activity, and leverage Lily's testimony about her father's secretive behavior to justify removing her from his custody. But Marcus had made a critical error. He'd underestimated exactly who Ethan Hayes was. While Sarah thought she was manipulating her husband, Ethan began creating his own narrative. He started leaving deliberate traces of his past, military commendations that suggested heroic service, business documents that painted him as a successful entrepreneur, and, most importantly, he began building a network of allies. His first move was subtle. During a parent-teacher conference, Ethan casually mentioned his concerns about Sarah's recent behavior to Dr. Susan Mills, the school psychologist. He shared his worry that his wife might be having an affair and how it was affecting their daughter's academic performance. Amber mentioned her mother's new yoga instructor. Dr. Mills noted, checking her files. She seems confused about why her mother needs so many private sessions. Ethan's second move was even more calculated. He reached out to Maria Thorne, Marcus's ex-wife, who had been financially devastated in their divorce 3 years earlier. He destroyed me systematically, Maria told Ethan over coffee in a small diner. She was a broken woman, working 2 jobs to support herself while Marcus lived in luxury. First, he made me dependent on him. Then, he isolated me from my friends and family. When he was done with me, he took everything. My home, my business, even my dog. Maria revealed Marcus's methods. He used private investigators, planted surveillance equipment, and even hired actors to create compromising situations. The man wasn't just a divorce lawyer, he was running an elaborate con game. He's done this to at least 6 women that I know of, Maria continued. Some of them lost their children, too. He has judges in his pocket, investigators who will lie under oath, and therapists who will write whatever reports he needs. That night, Ethan sat in his study, surrounded by files, photographs, and surveillance equipment. Sarah was upstairs, probably texting Marcus. Lily was doing homework, innocent of the war being waged around her. Ethan opened a secure laptop and typed a message to his former handler at the agency. Need a favor? Time to collect on old debts. The response came within minutes. Welcome back to the game, Reaper. What do you need? Reaper. His operational code name from the old days when his job was to eliminate problems that threatened national security. Now he had a more personal target, but the skills remained the same. The transformation in Ethan's behavior was imperceptible to the casual observer, but Sarah began to notice subtle changes. He became more attentive, bringing her flowers and suggesting romantic dinners. To her, it seemed like her husband was finally trying to save their marriage. Exactly what she needed to strengthen her case for emotional manipulation and control. What Sarah didn't realize was that Ethan was gathering intelligence. During their romantic dinner at Limbelli, Sarah's favorite restaurant, Ethan subtly guided the conversation toward their future. With a micro-recorder hidden in his cufflink, he captured Sarah admitting her dissatisfaction with their marriage, her desire for a more sophisticated lifestyle, and, most damning, her belief that Lily would benefit from a more cultured father figure. Sometimes I wonder what our lives would be like if we'd made different choices. Sarah mused over wine, her guard down. What kind of different choices? Ethan asked, playing the role of the concerned husband perfectly. Well, you travel so much for work and your business is so secretive. Lily barely knows what you do for a living. Don't you think she deserves stability? It was a rehearsed line, something Marcus had clearly coached her to say. Ethan filed it away with dozens of other pieces of evidence. Meanwhile, his network was providing intelligence on Marcus's operation. His former agency contacts had identified the corrupt investigators, the compromised therapists, and, most importantly, the 3 judges who had been influenced by Marcus's money and connections. The revelation that changed everything came from an unexpected source. Lily herself. Dad, can I ask you something weird? She said one evening while they were working on her debate prep. Always, sweetheart. Mom's friend Marcus came to pick her up yesterday when her car was being serviced. He asked me a lot of strange questions about you, like whether you ever get angry or if you keep weapons in the house. Felt wrong. Ethan's blood turned to ice. Marcus was already positioning Lily as a witness against her own father. Did he ask you anything else? He wanted to know about your work trips, if you ever seemed different when you came home. And he kept saying things like, you can tell me anything. Sometimes adults have problems that kids notice first. Lily's intelligence shone through her confusion. It felt like he was trying to get me to say bad things about you. That night, after Sarah claimed another evening yoga session, Ethan made his decision. The planning phase was over. It was time to begin the offensive. His first strike was surgical. Using skills learned in Eastern Europe, Ethan infiltrated Marcus's law office after hours. He didn't steal anything or plant evidence. Instead, he installed undetectable surveillance equipment and hacked into Marcus's computer system. What he found was a digital goldmine. Files on Sarah and 5 other current targets, detailed strategies for manufacturing evidence, and, most incredibly, recordings of Marcus coaching his clients on how to lie under oath. But the most valuable discovery was Marcus's personal calendar and communications. The man documented everything, including his plans for Sarah and Lily. According to Marcus's notes, the timeline was accelerating. Sarah would file for divorce in 2 weeks, claiming emotional abuse and demanding full custody. Marcus had already bribed Dr. Philip Steinberg, a family psychologist, to write a report declaring Ethan unfit for parenthood. The corrupted therapist would cite Ethan's secretive work, his military background, and Lily's obvious fear of her father. The custody hearing was scheduled for Judge Patricia Thornon's court, a woman who owed Marcus significant gambling debts and had ruled in his favor in 14 consecutive cases. Reading these files, Ethan felt the old familiar calm that preceded lethal action. Marcus Thorne thought he was playing chess against an amateur, but he had just declared war on someone who had spent 15 years perfecting the art of systematic destruction. The hunter had become the hunted, and Marcus had no idea that his perfect life was about to become his worst nightmare. As Ethan sat in Marcus's chair, surrounded by the man's arrogance, he allowed himself a cold smile. Tomorrow, he would begin turning Marcus's own weapons against him. The war for his family was about to begin. Marcus Thorne prided himself on controlling every variable in his operations, but he had no idea that his latest target was already 3 moves ahead. While Marcus prepared to destroy another family, Ethan Hayes was quietly dismantling the lawyer's entire world. The first blow was delivered through Maria Thorne, Marcus's ex-wife. Ethan had spent weeks preparing her, providing her with evidence of Marcus's predatory behavior and connecting her with other victims. Armed with documentation of his fraud and abuse, Maria filed a civil lawsuit against her ex-husband for intentional infliction of emotional distress and fraudulent manipulation. The real genius was in the timing. Maria's lawsuit was filed the same day Sarah was scheduled to meet with Dr. Steinberg, the psychologist Marcus had bribed. Jonathan's panic was captured on the surveillance equipment Ethan had installed. "This is impossible," he shouted into his phone. "Maria doesn't have the resources for this kind of investigation. Someone's helping her." While Marcus scrambled to contain the Maria situation, Ethan struck again. He'd identified Judge Thornon's gambling addiction and massive debts. Rather than expose her directly, Ethan arranged for one of her creditors to be arrested in an FBI sting. Facing federal charges, the bookie immediately offered to cooperate, providing federal investigators with detailed records of the judge's debts and the favors she performed. Judge Thornon would be under federal investigation within the week, making any custody decision she rendered immediately appealable. Sarah remained oblivious to the war raging around her. She continued her affair with Marcus, believing their plan was proceeding smoothly. She'd already begun packing Ethan's belongings in secret, convinced that within weeks she'd have the house, custody of Lily, and enough alimony to live comfortably with her new lover. What Sarah didn't know was that Ethan had been documenting everything. Hidden cameras throughout their home captured her conversations with Marcus, her attempts to hide assets, and, most damning, her coaching sessions where Marcus taught her to fabricate emotional abuse. But Ethan's masterstroke was yet to come. Through his agency contacts, he learned that Dr. Steinberg was already under investigation by the state licensing board. Rather than expose the bribe directly, Ethan arranged for Steinberg to be presented with an irresistible opportunity to prove his corruption. Using a sophisticated sting, Ethan's team posed as wealthy clients seeking Steinberg's services to fabricate evidence. He took the bait, accepting the money and agreeing to write a false psychological evaluation. What he didn't know was that every conversation was being recorded by the state's ethics investigators. The trap was closing on Marcus's entire network, but the lawyer was too focused on his upcoming triumph with Sarah to notice. Meanwhile, Lily was beginning to understand that something was seriously wrong. Her mother's absences were more frequent, and her interactions with Marcus had made her deeply uncomfortable. "Dad, I need to tell you something," Lily said one evening as they walked their dog. "I've been thinking about those questions Marcus asked me. I think he was trying to get me to lie about you." Ethan stopped, kneeling to face his daughter. "What do you mean?" "He kept asking if you ever yell or if I'm scared of you. When I said no, he'd rephrase the questions like, 'Surely there are times when your father's work stress makes him difficult to be around?' It felt like he was trying to put words in my mouth. You never have to be afraid to tell me the truth, Lily, about anything." "I know, Dad, and the truth is that Mom's been lying about where she goes. Marcus makes me uncomfortable, and something bad is happening to our family." Tears filled her eyes. "Are you and Mom getting divorced?" Ethan pulled his daughter into a hug, feeling the weight of protecting her innocence. "I don't know what's going to happen, sweetheart, but I promise you that I will never let anyone hurt you or take you away from me. Never." That night, as Sarah attended another yoga session, Ethan made his final preparations. Tomorrow, Marcus would file the divorce papers, confident in his ability to destroy another family. What he didn't know was that Ethan had already contacted the State Bar Association, the FBI, and the district attorney's office. The predator was about to become the prey. The morning Sarah served Ethan with divorce papers should have been Marcus Thorne's moment of triumph. Instead, it marked the beginning of his complete destruction. Ethan accepted the papers with apparent shock and devastation, playing his role perfectly while Sarah delivered her rehearsed speech. Marcus waited in his Porsche outside, barely able to contain his smug satisfaction. What neither of them knew was that their every move was being monitored by federal agents who had been investigating Marcus's network for 2 weeks. The first domino fell that afternoon when Dr. Philip Steinberg was arrested at his practice. The state licensing board, working with federal prosecutors, charged him with fraud and bribery. His confession, delivered within hours, implicated Marcus. Judge Patricia Thornon received the second blow. Federal investigators arrived at her chambers with evidence of her gambling debts and the favors she'd performed. Facing federal corruption charges, she recused herself from all of Marcus's pending cases and agreed to cooperate. But Marcus was still unaware of the trap closing around him. He spent the evening celebrating with Sarah at their usual hotel suite. "By tomorrow, you'll be free of that boring husband of yours," Marcus told Sarah. Their celebration was interrupted by Marcus's phone buzzing with panic calls. Dr. Steinberg's arrest was making local news, and the corruption investigation was widening. "This is just a coincidence," Marcus assured Sarah, though his confidence was wavering. "Steinberg was always reckless. It has nothing to do with us." Sarah returned home late that night, finding Ethan in his study. "Already looking for a lawyer?" she asked with false sweetness. "You should know that I've documented everything, Ethan. Your secret work, your long absences, your inability to be a proper father to Lily." Ethan looked up at his wife. "I'm sure you have, Sarah. Just like I'm sure you believe Marcus loves you." Something in his tone made Sarah's confidence flicker. "What's that supposed to mean? Did he tell you about Maria, or Sandra Williams, or Jennifer Chun?" Ethan named Marcus's previous victims, watching Sarah's face pale. "Did he mention that you're the fourth woman he's convinced to divorce her husband using the exact same strategy? You're not special, Sarah. You're just next in line." "You're lying," Sarah whispered, but doubt was creeping into her voice. "Maria Thorne filed a lawsuit against Marcus yesterday. She has evidence of his pattern. Seduce the wife, destroy the husband, steal the assets, then move on to the next target." "Even if that's true," Sarah said, "it doesn't change anything. I'm still divorcing you, and I'm still getting custody of Lily." "No," Ethan said quietly. "You're not." The next morning brought Marcus's world crashing down. Federal agents arrested him at his office on charges of bribery, fraud, and operating a criminal enterprise. Raids on his associates seized computers, files, and financial records. Sarah watched the news coverage in horror, seeing her lover led away in handcuffs. But Ethan wasn't finished. While Sarah struggled to process Marcus's arrest, she received a visit from Detective Laura Chin of the state police. "We have recordings, Mrs. Hayes," the detective explained gently. "Conversations between you and Mr. Thorne where you discuss creating false narratives about your husband's behavior. We also have video evidence of you meeting with Dr. Steinberg to coordinate your testimony." Sarah's world imploded. She wasn't just losing her divorce case. She was facing criminal charges for conspiracy and perjury. "I want to speak to my lawyer," she said shakily. "That might be difficult," Detective Chin replied. "Your lawyer is currently in federal custody." As Sarah was led away for questioning, Lily watched from her bedroom window, finally understanding why her father had seemed so calm despite their family falling apart. Her mother hadn't just betrayed her father. She'd been willing to lie about him in court to steal Lily away from the parent who truly loved her. That evening, Ethan found Lily on the porch. "Is she coming back?" Lily asked. "I don't know," Ethan answered honestly. "But if she does, it will be to face the consequences of her choices." "Good," Lily said quietly, "because what she did to you, to us, is unforgivable." Looking at his daughter, Ethan saw the same steel that ran through his own veins. The betrayal had hurt her deeply, but it had also taught her a valuable lesson about loyalty and justice. The predator had been caught. Now came the reckoning. Thanks for listening. This story isn't over yet, and things are about to get even more intense. Stay tuned for the next part to see what happens next.